Isak, Vlahovic, de Tomas. I don't give a shit. Just sign a striker. I don't give a shit. Just sign a striker, Arsenal. Hello. You guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. You can follow me on Twitter at JustinoTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Today, we're going to try to avoid the pain of talking about 5 games without a win, no goals in 4 games. We're going to just try to get over that, put that to the back burner, and talk about transfers because we need to make some signings, like literally now. So that's what we're going to talk about today. There's been a lot going on today. Woke up this morning and Vlahovic seems to be off and Alexander Isak seems to be on. And so it looks as though Arsenal have woken up, smelt the coffee, smelt the vibes, and realized that this Vlahovic guy is not really worth pursuing anymore. There have been some reports as of like the last like couple of seconds, like probably within the last hour, that Vlahovic, like there has been an offer that Fiorentina have accepted from Arsenal. So it's not about the money, and we've always known that, but literally these guys are silent. Like Vlahovic and his agent haven't let anybody know what they're trying to do. And it's almost like they're trying to make it like super dramatic. Like they're going to come out, you know, last moment of the transfer window and be like, boom, it's you, like American Idol style. Like they're going to be sitting there and they're like the judges, and Arsenal and Juventus are both standing there up there waiting to see, and the drum roll, Juventus. Like it feels a little bit like that. So for me, it's time to move on because this guy doesn't want to come to Arsenal, and it is pretty it's obvious to me, it feels like. And look, watching Lacazette look like he's playing a game of dads versus lads with, you know, Martinelli and Saka up there, and he can barely get up the pitch. It's just something I'm not really trying to watch anymore. And I think the Arsenal fan base is feeling a little bit anxious around this because I think the realization is really there that it's a slippery slope. And without a new striker, I don't even think it's just top 4 that's in question. It's everything. It's everything. And so that's not to be super, you know, negative towards Lacazette. We know what he is, and we know that he's given us some of the best football that we've seen this season for Arsenal. But the game against Liverpool, the game against Burnley has kind of just reminded us of where we really are, and it's time to move on. And exactly what Leopold has said, like, it's time to move on. No need to force a player to play for us. It's time to move on from Vlahovic, and it's time to move on from Lacazette and Aubameyang. One of the things that I saw, and this is always what happens, and I think Arsene Wenger said something similar to this, is that whoever's not playing, when you're in a bad moment, like as a club, whoever's not playing seems world class. And so the calls for me for Aubameyang seem a little bit like revisionist, like, oh, well, Lacazette's missing sitters. Well, right before Aubameyang was omitted from the squad, he was missing sitters as well. So I don't think, you know, bringing Aubameyang back in is necessarily the answer. And sticking with Lacazette isn't, and Nketiah certainly isn't the answer. So we're in a really difficult spot. And with like about a week left the transfer window, we don't look any closer to signing a striker than we did on the first day of the transfer window. And that's scary. And not to mention, we haven't signed a midfielder either. So it is squeaky bum time. It is time for Adu to stop barbecuing and get serious, because we need players like tomorrow. We Move says January is always a bore for all Gooners. No surprise. Victor says this is all on Adu. Craig Malloy says, why not go for Ivan Toney? Ivan Toney, I don't think he's as bad as some people make him out to seem, but I also don't think he's as good as people make him out to seem. I don't think he's Arsenal quality, and I can't see him, beyond being a little bit more physical, being that much of a better option at the moment, from what I've seen from him in this season in the Premier League, than Lacazette. That is just my opinion on that. Leopold, thank you so much for your super sticker. I really appreciate that. Nashville says, feels like we got stood up by Vlahovic. Nashville says he's just not that into us. And that's exactly what it is. He just isn't that into us. And, they're being a team that's not really the best. Like, let's keep it 100. Arsenal are a big club that are trying to rebuild, but for a lot of players will not be the most attractive place to go. And that's fine. And that needs to be accepted amongst this fan base. I really do feel like the fan base needs to I don't think lower their expectations, but be realistic. There are good players that we can go after that will improve us, that want to come to Arsenal. And just because Vlahovic is like the shiny thing, the PR magnet, the one that everybody's given their, oh, this is the Holland light, that doesn't mean that like we should continue to go after him, even though he's clearly doesn't want to come to us. And that also doesn't mean that we cannot improve the squad without him. And so we just need to kind of find that space between knowing that we need better, but also being realistic about what better looks like for Arsenal in the moment that we're in right now. Vlahovic wants to go to Juventus. F him, move on. It is what it is, as far as I'm concerned. Jimmy says, when you're in a crisis, you use every tool you can. Every tool is a crisis. Of course, Abba should be used, especially now, even if we move him on. I kind of hear what you're saying, but we're not in a crisis. Like, well, it depends on what you think a crisis is. I think when you read 5 games and no wins, it reads poorly. But we've dropped 2 points in the Premier League, which most people would say is the most important thing. We got knocked out of the Carabao Cup by a better team. Really, the only travesty that's happened this month has been Nottingham Forest for me. Burnley is a very disappointing result because we should have gotten the points. But, when I think crisis, I'm thinking what happened in November last season, when we were literally like 8 games with no wins, and a lot of those were in the Premier League. We dropped points in 1 Premier League game. So for me, I get the crisis aspect of like, well, we don't have the strikers and this and that. But Aubameyang is just not somebody that I think you can bring back into the fold, because his influence on the squad, I think, could disrupt things. So I hear what you're saying, but let's not revise history. Aubameyang is somebody that not only was in terrible form before he was omitted from the squad, he also is acting up, and not acting like a captain. He's been stripped of the captaincy. And I think there is something in the background that it will not allow us to bring him back into the squad. There is some sort of, I think, recognition or acceptance that this guy wants to go and we want to move him on, and it's all good, so I don't really think you can bring him in. But I hear what you're saying about the all tools thing. Blake says Vlahovic isn't into Arsenal, but this shows that Arsenal should try to rebuild and grow and get someone else, maybe Isak, and move on from Vlahovic, because you don't need a player who does not want to join. I mean, no lies told. I mean, and it's fair enough. And this is what kind of happens every single transfer window, is the Arsenal fan base on Twitter in particular get very obsessed with one player. And when we don't get them, even if we've went after them, even if we've done everything in our power to get them, it's looked at as some sort of like, oh my gosh, the transfer team is a shambles and all this kind of stuff. We have put an enormous offer on the table for Vlahovic. We've done everything we can. The mistake was not moving on quick enough, in my opinion, because it was always obvious that he didn't want to come. Now, there's still some people holding out hope because Fabrizio Romano has come up with some cryptic tweet about how it's a complicated deal to do, but don't, anything can happen in the last week of the transfer window. That is just, for me, that's just him keeping the hype alive. For the January transfer window, it's a short amount of time. His whole brand is built around, making the transfer window into like this big production. That is his thing. So for me, I kind of feel like instead it's better for him to say, oh, well, there's still a chance, don't count it out. Anything can happen. Then it's not going to happen. Forget it. Because then you don't have Arsenal fans asking him questions. You don't have people retweeting his shit, So for me, that is just a tweet to keep people hungry for more. What we do know is that we've put an offer down. Fiorentina is cool. They want to accept it because they want to get something for Vlahovic because he is currently running his deal down. And they have heard absolutely nothing from his camp, nothing. And so that's all that I can go off of, and not hearing anything from me is just that's a no for me. It just is, so it is time to move on. I know people are holding on to that little bit of hope, but I just can't see it happening at this point. Matt G says, obsessed. No idea what you're talking about, Jess. Awar, Basuma. Yeah, I mean, there's even some peripheral people like Renato Sanchez that I see that has a lot of backing from some of the people in the Arsenal fan base. I just think we get really connected to names and compilations, and people get hyped over certain players because a couple of people back them as their choice. There are other players that will improve us. We were so obsessed with Awar. We've gotten Odegaard. Who cares now? Like, you know what I mean? And there will be a player beyond Vlahovic, and it may be Isak. So let's go ahead and talk about him. There's about 100 of you guys watching. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. S is happy. S is saying, I always wanted Isak. Hey, fair enough. S also is saying, no, he said we didn't have a chance for Party. I think he just learned from his mistake. Personally, for me, I think that he is just keeping hope alive, because if you tell us now that we don't have a chance and it's done, then for the next 5 days, nobody gives a shit about what he's saying from the Arsenal fan base. And we are one of the biggest online fan bases there. And so we push his shit. We are like, little drug dealers pushing his coke. Like, it really is that serious. Scott says, Sanchez, just not sure about his consistent performances. The guy is so injury prone, and whenever I watch him, he doesn't do anything. He's a compilation guy for me, quite similar to Pepe in my opinion. So, he's not somebody that I think is going to substantially improve us. I think, I don't know. I just don't see that signing making a lot of sense. Diallo says, my hunch is that Romano has no idea what's going on internally at Arsenal. He's making stuff up. That's why I don't follow him anymore. That is true that he doesn't really have a very, let's say, a good pulse on what's going on at Arsenal. So it may be a little bit of him just being like, who knows, but yeah, I'm just kind of, the Vlahovic thing just feels so far gone. Captain Joka says, Isak and Renato Sanchez in January, Bruno Guimaraes in the summer, all of our loan players coming back in the summer. What do you think we can do for next season? Jess, let me just star that. I will come back to that at the end of the show. I do want to go ahead and talk about Isak a little bit, because the reason why that has come up is because the more reliable Arsenal kind of correspondents have come out this morning. Simon Collins, Ornstein in particular, saying that Arsenal find the Vlahovic deal to be very difficult to get over the line. And so they're looking at alternatives. And the two alternatives that they kind of spoke about were Alexander Isak and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin is somebody who the club likes, but knows that they're not going to be able to get them, they're not going to be able to get Dominic Calvert-Lewin from Everton in January. I just see it as a non-starter because they are fighting, and in a moment right now where the Everton fan base is very unhappy with the board, the last thing you want to do is sell one of your best players to Arsenal in January. So I have no doubt that Dominic Calvert-Lewin would want to come. I think Everton would sell, just not in January. So I think that's a reason why they're looking towards Isak. Isak is somebody that we could get in January because he has a release clause. And so all we have to do is walk up with the money, pay it, and move forward. As long as we could negotiate like personal terms with Isak. And the thought is that he would be open to coming to Arsenal. He's somebody that would see it as a step up and a good move for his future. Now, there are a lot of people that will go straight to Google and type in Alexander Isak, press stats, and see that he only has like 4 goals this season in the league. I would say that at this point, beyond Vlahovic, every single like striker that we'd be looking at that's within the like 22 to 25-year-old range is going to be somewhat of a risk because they don't have the end product to really back up all the positives about them. So Isak is somebody who's not going to get you off of your feet after you've been like drooling over Vlahovic for the last 2 weeks. But I think Isak is a Arsenal player. He reminds me so much of Arsenal players of old that have been very technical, they have some flair about them. They have a lot of different aspects to their game. He is rapid. The guy is not a big, tall, slow guy. He is so quick. And I just look at his raw skill set and think if somebody could mold him and if he continues to improve under the trajectory that he already is, he could become something very special. And he's different to Vlahovic, where he's not he's not a traditional nailed on number 9. He's somebody that can play out wide. He's somebody that can run in behind. He is kind of Aubameyang-esque. And I hate to make this comparison because people will say, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're comparing him to him. But he has a lot of the same attributes as Thierry Henry. We all know Thierry was a winger early on in his career and became a number 9 but he always kind of went off into the left-hand side and play off of the wing and on the touchline and could beat a man. And Isak has a lot of those same attributes. He's not as good as Thierry, I know that, but when I look at him, I just see somebody who feels like an Arsenal player, and he looks like somebody that would mesh well with the group that we already have. You know, him and Martinelli and Saka up top would be a young but exciting front three that, if they could grow over the years, could be something really dangerous. But again, he is a prospect at best because his goal output has been so up and down. The year that he played with Odegaard, which was 2019, 2020, I think, he had like 9 goals and like 4 assists or something like that. And that was like his first season at Real Sociedad, maybe his second. Then last season, he scored 17 goals and had like 2 assists. So he really had a breakout season last season. If I remember correctly, Real Sociedad went to Borussia Dortmund and tried to get rid of the buyback clause that they had on him because they knew that he was going to be somebody that they could make a lot of money off of. This season, he struggled, but their entire team has struggled to score. And the same kind of thought process around Aubameyang not getting enough service kind of has to be applied here as well, because he does score a lot of the chances that he gets. He's just not getting a lot of chances, and the team is struggling in that regard. But he is still somebody that's raw talent. And so when you get to how much is he going to cost us, and you see that it's going to be about a $75 million release clause, and we're going to go to them in January and try to negotiate a lower fee, I think we're going to be paying a lot for this guy if we want to bring him in. But that's kind of the price that you pay for not being prepared for the season. You end up having to make very expensive decisions to make up for not being prepared from minute one. If you sell Lacazette not last summer, but the summer prior to Roma for the 15 million that they were willing to give us. If you sold him and did not keep him, you would have had space in the squad to bring in Tammy Abraham, who would have cost us a mere 40 million. So now we're going to have to pay almost double to make sure that we secure top six. And that's just the price you pay for poor squad building over the years, not being able to get like high paid, underperforming senior players off of your books. And it just kind of is what it is. But Arsenal can't get around buying a striker in this window. So for me, it is what it is. Pay up. We know you have the money, so you got to make something happen. What do you guys think about Alexander Isak? I asked you guys this question last week. Would going to Isak feel like a step down from somebody like Vlahovic because he's so highly rated? Do you think that it just feels underwhelming, or can you see Isak being a positive signing for Arsenal, somebody that we can get behind, even though he may not be as flashy as Vlahovic? Let's see. Glenn Cook says Odegaard scored 17 goals with Odegaard just. Was he there at the same time? I thought because Odegaard, maybe I'll go look at it again, but maybe I'm getting my dates wrong. But last season, Odegaard was with us, right? And that was 2020, 2021. Last season, he came to us at the back end of the season, but at the front end of the season, he didn't play at all for Real Madrid because they had taken him back off of loan from Real Sociedad. So in 2020, 2021, which was last season, he scored 17 goals and had 2 assists. The season prior in 1920 is the season that Odegaard was at Real Sociedad. That is my kind of how I'm remembering it. But fair enough if it was the other way around, but it can't be because Odegaard was with us last season, and that's the season that Isak scored 17 goals. Nevertheless, he's had a big season with a lot of goals. So he has it in him. Let's see. Kairos says the quality of strikers is terrible. Lautaro Martinez or Vlahovic is the next level up. We need one of them. But what if you can't get them, Kairos? The thing is we can always talk about what we need. I mean, shit, we need Frankie de Jong. We need Declan Rice. We need whoever. We need Gnabry. We need this player. We can need a lot of players, but the reality is if they don't see our project as something that they want to be a part of, we kind of have to start looking at other options because that's just where we're at. So I hear that's what we need, but Lautaro Martinez is not leaving Inter Milan, a team that's in the Champions League, at the top of Serie A, for Arsenal, who cannot guarantee European football. Not only can we not guarantee Champions League, but at the moment, we can't actually even guarantee Europa. So no matter how much we want to pay him or how much we can offer, for some of these players, we're just not an attractive proposition because they see themselves somewhere else. So even though I understand we need to be looking bigger than this, what are the other options that we can look at that will improve us, but with players that will actually be willing to come? Rancid Pumpkin says, if we get CL, that money would be back in no time. S says, Isak is a step up in my book. Dimitro says, Isak is like Kanu. Yeah, when I look at him, I just see Adebayor, Kanu, Henry type vibes from him. I get has skill, but is a bigger, taller guy, but has speed and skill. And that's different than Vlahovic. Vlahovic is a traditional number 9, and so that's a little bit different. So we're talking about 2 completely different players, but I think Isak has quality. Let's see. Cairo says, yes, step down. Nashville says, stop with the poor squad building. They're turning over the entire squad. Well, the reason why we have to turn over the entire squad is because our squad building was not good. So even though we are in a better moment where like we can say that we're trying to turn the corner. We can't act like some of the decisions that we've made before Adu and Arteta were like the main people running our recruitment, that this is not a part of our bad squad building. So, I mean, it really started with buying Lacazette without a plan, and then turning around and buying Aubameyang straight after the next 6 months, and not knowing what to do with Lacazette, not moving him on years prior. So for me, you can say that it's not that poor squad building, but it is, and it may not be Adu's fault, but I still think that there was an opportunity to sell Lacazette. It's very well documented, and we didn't, because we wanted to get more money the next summer, and the next summer still nobody wanted to buy Lacazette. So it is poor squad building. You can look at some Adu and say, yeah, he did really good in this window, but also say that Arsenal over the years have been poor at squad building, and I don't think that that's wrong to say, whether it's Adu or not. Christopher says Isak is a fun player to watch, gets people off their seats, might not have an immediate impact. Sorry, my dog just starts barking as soon as we start talking. Craig says Isak's stats doesn't cut it for me. Diallo says Isak definitely not underwhelming, just overpriced, which could affect our outlay in midfield. That is an aspect of it. If we can't negotiate a lower fee, the issue will be is that we'll have to pay the 75 million up front. And so front loading that would maybe affect what we can do in the summer. That is an issue in terms of trying to get the midfielder. John says Isak would get more hype because he has more talent. He's a very talented player. He's just very young, Adam says Jess is correct regarding Odegaard and Isak. Yeah, it's kind of, those are the dates. And because everybody assumes that his best season was with Odegaard. It actually wasn't, but they were very good together. But Isak scored a lot of goals last season, and Odegaard was at Real Madrid / at Arsenal. So there you go. Rich Something says Isak for 40 million, why not? For 75 million, why? Because they're going to ask us to pay his release clause. We have to also remember that we're asking a club to give us one of their biggest assets in the middle of the season. So, and we're also desperate, and they also know that we put 60-something million down for Vlahovic. So not only do they know we have the money, but we're asking them for one of their best players, if not their best asset. So we're not going to get a cut price deal. I think it's almost silly to think that they would give him to us for anything less than 50. But that's, again, I think that's the price you pay for just, not having your ducks in a row, to be honest, and being in a situation where now you're looking at the squad. I think the one thing that was unforeseeable is Aubameyang. I think had the one thing that you can give them a little bit of grace for is they probably counted on Aubameyang scoring at least 10 to 15 goals this season, and he just hasn't been available and ready, and he just hasn't been doing it. So had that not happened, we probably wouldn't be pushing for this signing so early. But I think the club understand, and they need to understand that top 6 is not guaranteed without a striker. It just isn't. It's not top 4, it's top 6. All the teams that we're kind of going up against beyond the top 2 have strikers. We need a striker. Neil says, I want Isak instead. He fits our system. Martinelli, Isak, Saka. I mean, it makes sense, even though I think Vlahovic, Saka, and Martinelli also make sense, but it seems like he would fit on paper. Aaron LFC says Isak is a talent, but it's very high price for unproven, a risk Arsenal should still take. Yeah. So, I mean, everybody has mixed views on it, really. Khan says Isak isn't clinical enough. S says Isak is better than Martinez. So, I mean, everybody has their own kind of thought process on it. I understand, it's not that exciting for some after being linked with Vlahovic, and Vlahovic obviously has the end product to back up the price. But But then there's some people that are willing to take Isak. And I think at this point, when we're talking about strikers that would be willing to come to Arsenal, that we could actually get, that is a short list. And so we have to be realistic about that. The Two Sets Free, thank you so much for your super chat. He says, teams like Spurs and Arsenal think one player is going to do anything. These teams are miles off Man City, Chelsea, and Liverpool, 3 or 4 windows away, to be honest. Yeah, we are a couple of windows away. I honestly think we're 2-3 players away from being able to really fight for top 4 and like be in a position where we're playing against Burnley and we don't have all of our best players and we can still get the 3 points. That's kind of where we're at right now. If we've noticed, our contemporaries can have players missing and not play really well and still beat the bottom teams. We're in a position where without our starting 11, we can be beat or not take all 3 points. That's where we're at. So we're definitely a couple windows away, but I think a striker and 2 midfielders or a midfielder and another attacker changes the trajectory of what we're trying to do. But then we have in order to fight for the title, then you're starting to talk about squad depth and stuff like that. And we're way off of that. So I do agree that we are far, far away. Neil Gunner says, pay the money. Don't know why we're worried about money. It's not ours. Yeah, it's been made. Arsenal are the one fan base and the one club that I noticed counts every single dollar to the penny. And also the media, we're the only club that when they're talking about fees attributed to players, they add the wages and the fee and all of that together to make it look even bigger, because the narrative around Arsenal is that we pay silly money for players and it never works out. And this is going to be another one. And I can't say that I don't think that narrative is completely wrong either. So there you go. Let's see. CC says the price you pay for being unprepared, now you have to splash the cash. That's kind of how I feel about it. The only thing that was unforeseeable, in my opinion, is Aubameyang. I think we all kind of thought he's going to have a better season this season. He's going to be on it. Last season was a blip. It was just because he was having personal issues and he had malaria. But what it's turned out to be that it's been a longer lull than we thought. And so now we're dipping into the market early. So yeah, it seems like mixed reviews on Isak. So we'll definitely see what happens. If anything is going to happen, I see Adu trying to get it done on the last, day of the window, and just like Thomas Partey style. And the funny thing is that the narrative this morning when I woke up was some prominent Arsenal accounts were basically saying that Adu can't negotiate. He can only do release clauses and cancel contracts. And I think that's a little bit harsh on Adu. And I am harsh on him, but I don't think you can look at Vlahovic and say that we could not negotiate the deal. The guy will not answer our phone calls. The agent and the player have not answered. So even though we put the money out there on the table, put out a package that any young player would bite your hand off for, he has not wanted to. So, I don't think that this has anything to do with negotiating. I think it's more about how long we took to get to the point of moving forward. That being said, we probably always knew that we could, and I wouldn't be surprised if we have already spoken to Isak and have sounded out what his personal terms would look like, because knowing that you have a release clause, you don't really need to talk to the club. So as long as the player kind of wants to come, you can kind of push it forward a little bit more. So it may be a little bit of that, and that's why we waited so long. But that being said, he kind of needs to just go ahead and get it done and not mess about, because we definitely need a striker. Yo-Yo says, Adu has an Amazon cameras to impress. I expect big things. I mean, it would be very underwhelming for the transfer window episode of the All or Nothing Arsenal documentary to be Artur on loan. You know, it would be nice to see something a little bit more like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. But don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. Ify says, I'm okay with Isak. Some doubted Ramsdale and Tomiyasu, but they turned out really good. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, there you go. Matt G says, Jess, should Aubameyang take career advice from Emmanuel Adebayor? It's just funny. The media just does what basically they've been holding on to that since Aubameyang has been out of the squad, because they probably assumed that we would capitulate, and we've played very well since he's been outside of the squad. I don't think us playing bad in January has anything to do with Aubameyang. I don't think Aubameyang would have made a difference, to be honest. So, and he was always going to be an AFCON anyway. So they were holding on to it. And now that we went through a bad patch, they're going to people that have unresolved feelings or resentment towards Arsenal and saying, what do you think about Arsenal right now? And the perfect person to go get is Adebayor, because he is still bitter. And I do not care what Adebayor has to say. What do we need to forgive? Like Aubameyang, I get why, you know, people feel like you need to just kind of get off your high horse, but we only feel that way because we don't have a striker right now, and nobody really feels like we need to go reconcile with Ozil anymore because we've moved on from that. So I think we just need to kind of ride the wave, because I don't think bringing Aubameyang back in is really going to be that helpful. And if Aubameyang wants to take a career advice from Adebayor, that's on him. You know, that's on him. You know, so Rancid Pumpkin says, who is Adebayor? Exactly. So there's about 178 of you guys watching. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I do want to touch on the Artur rumors. It looks like there's just some final negotiations going on with that. Obviously, we wanted a short-term loan, and they want us to take him for over a year. So I'm hoping that we find some happy medium there. Even though I like Artur and I think that he's a quality player, I think that 18-month loan feels long. You know, it feels long for somebody that, you know, I don't know. It just feels long. I wish we could go to like a 12-month loan or something, but I know why they want that. They don't want him to come back in January next season. So they're adding on that extra 6 months to get to the summer again. That being said, I know that people are not excited about the Artur signing, and it's not what they want. You know, they want us to go get our main center midfield target, but we need a striker. And I think knowing that Xhaka and Thomas Partey will be back in the next game that we play, and hopefully, like, we have 17 games left. We're not in any other competition, so we have 17 games left. If they can be available for 12 of those, either one of them, I think we'll be fine. There's still a red card left in Xhaka, I believe, and probably maybe a little injury here for Thomas Partey. But I think what you're looking for is somebody that's not a child, that can step in for one of them if they're unavailable. And so I get it that it's not exciting, and it's not Bruno Guimaraes, it's not Basuma, it's not your number one signing. But I don't know if you guys realize this, but we just need freaking depth. No good team, no top team goes through an entire season with Sambi, El Neni, Thomas Partey, and Granit Xhaka and expect to do anything. So for me, it's not that big of a deal. As long as he's not Kim Kallstrom and Dennis Suarez, he's depth. You know, he's depth, and he allows us to keep somewhat of a competitive level if one of our starting midfielders is not available. And so, yeah, it's just, I don't really understand the upset, like the anger towards it. He's just the same as so and so. To say that he's similar to El Neni, I think, is disingenuous, when El Neni, I don't think he's ever really played in like he's never really played for a club at their peak or anywhere near that. I don't think anybody's ever paid more than 10 million for him. I don't think he's played very many games in Champions League. I don't think he's like saying that he's similar to El Neni, I think is really disingenuous when he was very good for Barcelona and that fan base did not want him to leave. We want El Neni to leave, so usually when the fan base tells you a lot about the type of player that you're getting, and Barcelona didn't want him to go, and Juventus, the move just hasn't worked out. So he's 25, 26 years old, and he's probably played more Champions League games in his career than Granit Xhaka. So I'm not really understanding like oh my gosh, like he's so bad. He's literally not. He'll probably need a couple of games to get up to speed, but we literally need depth. And if he could just provide a consistent level, that doesn't mean that we need to like, so our level doesn't drop so low. So we can so we can beat Burnley even when our best players are not out or are not there. I think that's what we're looking for. And so I don't really understand it, to be honest. So yeah, there you go. So no Premier League team was looking at Odegaard, but he's fine. Just because other teams are not looking at the player doesn't mean that they're not good. Other teams need that player. And I don't think other teams wanting that player really means that I don't really think that that's it. He's not playing a lot right now because the move hasn't worked out. But again, Odegaard wasn't playing at Real Madrid and we love him. He's been our best player one of our best players this season. Those are not data points on whether or not a player will be good for you, whether or not other teams are in for him, and whether or not he's playing at the current club, because we know there are reasons other than is he a good player that keep a manager from using you or not. We know that. So I think you got to go a layer deeper than I looked at his statistics on Google and he only played this amount of games. I only see 2 goals and 2 assists. He's probably not that good of a player. Other teams aren't looking at him, so he's probably shit. I just don't think that those are data points, to be honest. That's just me. I can't see it. Let's see. Cairo says Leicester City players who won the league weren't wanted. Look at them now. I mean, I just don't think that those are data points. He's not going to get you off your seat, but a couple of prominent Twitter accounts will say something like he's the Brazilian El Neni, and people start believing it and parroting it off because, oh, well, so-and-so said that he's not very good. This is not a bad player. He's not going to get you off his seat, but he's better than El Neni. And if you guys think, oh my gosh, you guys El Neni is, we bought a depth player for 10 million, and you think Artur is similar. I don't know, you guys. Sicko Vibe says, forget the striker and get Artur and Gini Wijnaldum. Mike says, if interested counted as signings, Arsenal would be the best team in the world. John says, I don't question his talent or motivation, but there's something off for me about Artur. The thing that's off is that they had a bad swap deal that went bad for Artur and Pjanic, and both players' careers have suffered since then. And so when you're looking at Juventus and you look at the amount of midfielders that they have and some of the players that are not playing right now, not all of them are shit. It just happens sometimes. And I just don't really, that's not how I just subscribe to, that's not, my data points are not really based on oh, well, the coach doesn't rate him, that's there. Well, Juventus is playing ass right now, and they're trying to fight to get into the Champions League, and they're supposed to be one of the better teams in Serie A. Who cares? I just don't think that that's, I don't know. What do you think is off about him? Is it just he's not playing? Is it because no other teams are trying to get him? What is it? I just don't get it. Nashville Gunner says, we all want a transformation in midfield, but we could not do everything at once. We bought Party back up and expected Xhaka to play almost every game, and he has for years. And that's the thing is, I mean, we aren't able to do everything at once. And so again, like Artur is coming in to fill in. Not every single signing is going to be a world beater, but that doesn't mean that they don't hold value. And it's sometimes with this fan base, I feel like it's all or nothing. Like if they are not going to be our number one signing, permanent signing, then I don't want it. And there were a lot of people that like didn't really want Odegaard as a loan signing. And I think he helped us last season. I really do. So, and Ceballos even added something the first season. The second season, he was dead. But the first season, he added something. So I don't know. It's just a loan signing, you guys. It's fine. Like, it's literally just a loan signing. Let's see. Romy said, I'd rather Melo comes over Elneny and Sambi till he settles. Yeah. Diallo says, common sense tells you we won't solve everything in this January window. No chance. Better deals will come in the summer. This is true. Rancid Pumpkin says, nothing wrong with our tour. Don't forget there's a World Cup to play, and he will want to be a part of it. And that's a part of it. That's why Coutinho and Artur are desperate to move on from Barcelona and Juventus. I think they need a move. Artur needs a move. We can offer that to him, and he can offer us experienced and quality backup to our starters. And so there you go. There you go. There you go. So so you're saying Artur can't get into the Juventus team, but there were players that were out of favor under Lampard that are now playing for Tuchel. So because they couldn't get into the Chelsea side under Lampard, did that make them shit? Or no? This is what I'm saying. It's like, well, he can't get into the team. Well, he can't get into the team because that swap deal was so criminal that he never wanted to go there. He was playing very well at Barcelona. Those fans wanted him to stay there. I mean, there are other reasons other than the player being shit to why they're not playing. Why is Aubameyang not playing for us right now? Because of off the field issues. Like, there are just things that I just feel like that's just 1 + 1 = 2. Well, that manager is not playing him, so that means he's shit. It's just not how it works. I mean, a lot of you guys would take Donny van der Beek, but he's not playing for Manchester United. Is he shit? Answer that. So there you go. The Truth Sets Free says, I donated a lot to Spurs channels to help people I liked, but I was never a fan of the team. I love Obafemi Martins, my favorite player, Mercenary, and I'm a fan of a team only if I love the players on it. Mercenary fan. Thank you so much for your super chat. Let's see. Yo-Yo says, Arteta Edu knew 34, Mateo, Amen, Torreira wanted to leave last summer. The two aren't victims. They're silly. I don't think that they're victims. I think it's half and half. Like, I think it's a little bit of like, I can see why they went with what they went with, but at the same time, it was stupid, so they made a silly mistake. So yeah, there was another player that we were linked with that I'm going to be real. I've never heard of him before. So if there's any La Liga experts out there that know something about this guy, de Tomas, I think his name is, Raul de Tomas from Espanyol. We've been linked with him as well. Apparently he's on the list. And I mean, he's played 21 matches and scored 12 goals and has 2 assists. So that's not bad. That's not bad at all. He's 27. That's definitely different than what we've kind of been looking at. And you could say that one of the things that we really lack in this team is experienced players that can be relied upon. And I don't know if he's one of those. Again, you guys, I don't know much about him. I haven't really done a lot of digging. That's not a team that I look at. But we can go ahead and look at some of his statistics and see what he's about. I feel like this is somebody that the fan base are not going to like. I have to be honest. he's not going to get the same excitement that other players are getting, right? So the guy takes a lot of shots. He takes about 3.46 shots per 90. So he takes a lot of shots. There's that. But let's see. That's one of his standout ones. Pass completion, 81% per 90. That's good. Dribbles completed. So he dribbles a lot and he's good at it. He completes 1.71 dribbles per game, per 90. Progressive carry. So he carries the ball a lot. He carries the ball about 3.85 times per game, and he's pretty successful at it. So I don't know what kind of player this is. Like, I really, really don't. Like, I didn't even look at comps because this just came out like a couple hours ago. But this is somebody else that we're linked with. And what I do like to look at is the first 5 players that they've been that they're similar to on this little chart here. And it says Ollie Watkins, Bilal Dia, Alexander Isak, Luis Suarez, and Harry Kane. So those are the players that he's likened to. I don't know much about him, you guys. I have to be honest, but he's 27. He plays in La Liga, and I just don't think the fan base is going to love on him. I really just don't see it. So I'm not sure really where this has come from. Matt G says, I've never heard of him. Give me 10 minutes on YouTube and I'll be an expert. Exactly. Like, I really need to look more at this guy, but he is a striker. And I'm getting the feeling that I prefer Alexander Isak just looking at this. This is not filling me with like excitement. And then when you look at Isak, his numbers aren't like super outstanding, but when you use your eye test with him, you can see that he's a very talented young player. Let's see. No, I got to look at this at another time. But yeah, he's that's pretty much where we're at. This older guy, Isak, or hoping that Vlahovic answers our calls, and it's a little bit disappointing because I would love for this to have been handled a lot cleaner. But at Arsenal, nothing is ever easy. Nothing is ever like fast. Like, we're always so slow to react in the market. So hopefully we're in for a exciting last 7 days of the window. Hopefully things get done. But I don't know. It's looking a little jumbled at the moment. Let's see what you guys are saying. S says, haven't watched him, but yeah, I haven't watched him either. I have to be honest. Rancid Pumpkin says, I don't know this guy, but if he joins us, he deserves a chance. Of course, anybody who joins, I would give a fair shot. It is what it is. Yo-Yo says, I reckon a lot of players are linked to Arsenal to boost their Instagram followers. Wow. That is not super positive, Yo-Yo. You haven't been positive lately. Joshua says, anything is better than Laka. That's kind of where we're at as well. Like, I have to be honest. I feel like we need somebody who's willing to come, that has at least the potential to become something great, but at the moment is better than Lacazette and Nketiah, and that is a very low bar, I have to be honest. Diallo says, respectfully, I'll pass. People are not interested in that. Yeah, people are not interested in that. Sadaham says, hey, I'm a Juve fan. Artur is not playing because he does not fit into our system and he has injury issues. And after a big injury, he is not playing at the level that he was. So fair enough. That is good insight there. Isak says RDT is a very good player, but not for Arsenal. Enrique started him over Morata and the likes for Spain. So I don't know nothing about him. That guy, Raul de Tomas, whew, what is that? Okay. So yeah, but I had starred one of these comments. Captain Joka said, Isak and Renato Sanchez in January, Bruno Guimaraes in the summer, all our loan players coming back in the summer. What do you think we can do for next season? I think our next season really depends on what we do in the market. And I think what's going to be really important is improving depth. Because even if we're not going for the title, to be honest, I can't see us competing in multiple competitions with the depth that we have right now. And the best way to build depth is to bring in players that can compete with your current starters, and then one of them becomes a bench player. Kind of similar to what's going on with Emil Smith-Rowe. He's not really a bench player; he's a starter, but he's kind of like a Jota, for us, where he could easily start, but because somebody else is performing a little bit better, he's our next man up, and that's very good squad depth, and that's kind of what I want to see happen. Similar to Saliba, I'd like to see him come back in, and then he can fight for a spot for Ben White's spot potentially, or Gabriel's spot, and we can see what happens there. A new right back comes in, that's good, not young and raw and unproven. Somebody that can, give us a different option to Tomiyasu, but can also take Tomiyasu's spot potentially. Nobody should get comfortable. I think the new players that have come in, especially the four that are starting day in and day out for us, I think Ramsdale's a little bit different because he's a goalkeeper, but Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, Ben White, and Odegaard are players that I don't want them to get comfortable. Like, I don't want anybody feeling comfortable. We should be bringing in backups that can compete for their spots right now. And we know that we can do that without having to spend it a lot. We don't have to. You could probably, right back is one of those where I think you could find a good different option for 20 to 30 million, but we need something that's not Cedric and Chambers. Like, we need something. So when Tomiyasu is not there, we can do something different. When you're looking at Odegaard, I think he's somebody that if Emil Smith-Rowe doesn't evolve into a number 10 or like a playmaker in the center of the pitch, and he becomes more of like a forward type player, more of just like an attacking midfielder, you will need somebody else that can play make from, in front of the two defensive central midfielders. And so that might be a position that you want to look at. And then we definitely need reinforcements in that pivot. We definitely need reinforcements. Xhaka needs to be moved on. So he needs to be replaced. Then hopefully if Artur can stay for more than a year, he replaces El Neni. Thomas Partey is an option. And then you still need to bring in, you still probably need to even bring in somebody else, because I just think our midfield options are just so dire. You need at least 4 midfielders that you can rely upon if you want to be a top club in the Premier League. So that's kind of what I would like to see happen. I know that people are down on Tielemans, but he is somebody that if we brought in a CDM, I wouldn't have a big deal with him coming in as well. The reason for that is because even though he's not particularly two-way, he would be a good option if something happens to Odegaard, because I don't think at the moment Smith-Rowe is a good replacement for Odegaard if something were to happen to him. And Tielemans is somebody that, even though he's not my favorite, he's somebody that if you have a good base behind him, he's fine. He played horribly against of Spurs, but we know he's a quality player. But we know more than anything, we need to replace Granit Xhaka. And so that's where your Bruno Guimaraes comes in. That's where your Basumas come in. And I would take either one of them. My only ask is that the players that we bring in need to be experienced, not kids. Like, they have to be 24, 25 years old. They need to be older than the players that we already have, because we have enough youth. When I see the links to 19 and 20-year-olds, I'm like, we've done that. Like, the players need to have some experience. And so I wouldn't mind seeing like a Bruno Guimaraes be the big summer signing. Basuma, providing that his personal issues do not become something that are confirmed and he is tried and committed for whatever. But that kind of signing coming in as like our main signing. So Renato Sanchez is just not somebody that I particularly rate. I know the fan base does. He just is so vibes and nothing else for me. And so I don't think he adds very much substantially, because he doesn't score goals and he doesn't have a good passing range, and he's all dribbling and vibes. And that's just not what I think we need. So there, you know, there you go. Tielemans was probably bad during the Spurs game because his defensive cover and Didi was at AFCON. I mean, again, we are very flippant as fans. Like just a couple of days before when we were linked to Tielemans, everybody really wanted him. And then he had that bad game against Spurs and nobody looked at the midfield that he was in. It was Madison, Drewberry, Breeze, or whatever the hell his name is, and Tielemans. And that midfield was always getting eaten up. The reason why we think he's so good is because he doesn't have defensive responsibilities when he plays with Ndidi or when he plays with Sumare and Ndidi. So that's where I'm kind of like, he's somebody that if he did come in, he wouldn't be my first choice, probably not my second choice, but I think he has quality, and that's what I'm saying. But the most important midfielder is that central defensive midfielder. That's definitely it. Nashville says, I'm not big on signing a guy who we're waiting on a pending court case. I mean, the club would obviously probably hold off on any move for him unless they knew what was going to really go on with him. And I'm just going off of the fact that we're still linked with him. A recent report has come out that we're still looking at him. And so it's like us and Newcastle and Aston Villa. So until you're innocent until you're proven guilty. And I do believe in believing the victim. But I also think it's important to make sure that they're actually charged with that crime and not just when they're investigated of something, just decide, oh, he's a rapist. It's very dangerous. It's dangerous, kind of assuming things just because there's reports out there and you're being investigated for something. So that's why it's always with an asterisk, provided that he's not charged with it, but yeah, I hear what you guys are saying. I do. Martial to Sevilla, loan deal done. Good for him. S says Basuma is playing in AFCON. Mendy was sent to jail. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm like, unless he's actually charged with it, I can't say he's a rapist. Like, you know what I mean? So there you go. Let's see. Truth Sets Free says Tielemans' stock went up because he scored a worldie in a final and it's on people's memories. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that he's been a consistent performer for Leicester. And if you look at the players that probably should have made a move, but maybe their moves were halted because of COVID. When you look at Ndidi and Madison and Tielemans, there was a point in time where they were fighting for the top four and those players were very good. So I don't think he's necessarily like overrated or anything like that. I just think that he has flaws that are really obvious when there's nobody there to clean it up. So obviously he's a liability to you if you don't have a base behind him to clean it up. A lot of creative players are like that, where they just don't have the ability to add anything defensively. So you have to have players to clean it up for them. And so if you don't like those types of players, you won't like Tielemans. And that's a big reason why I don't really like him that much in terms of like Arsenal. But if he was somebody that the club is looking at, which I feel like they are, I would imagine we would bring in a CDM to make sure that we wouldn't get exposed. That's my only real caveat with that. That's all I'm saying, but at the same time, if you don't rate him, fine. You guys, he hasn't been charged. Like if he was charged, then he wouldn't be playing at AFCON, you guys. He hasn't been charged. He was under investigation. And from my understanding, it's the person that he was with was the person that they were really looking at, and he happened to be there. You're not playing at AFCON if you've been charged with anything. And that's all I'm going to say at this point. Rich says Tielemans would be a replacement for Xhaka. We still need assist. No, exactly. We need more than one midfielder. I don't know if if I'm the only one who thinks this, but I think we need more than one midfielder. I think we need somebody to replace El Neni, which that could easily be Artur. And then we need another attacking 8, and we need a traditional number 6. So your Fabinho type, your whatever, your single pivot, or a person that can be in your double pivot that just cleans up messes. So for profile's sake, just so I can make it more clear, we need somebody like Basuma and probably somebody like Tielemans, that maybe a different person, but somebody like that. I think those are the 2 profiles that we're missing to add to Odegaard and Thomas Partey, and maybe Artur. Then you have a good base of midfielders that you can work from, and you can mix and match that group so that you don't ever look at your midfield and see Sambi and Charlie Patino. And we need to take Sambi out of the firing line. He needs to. I think he's somebody that should play, and like he really has been exposed a little bit too much, in my opinion. But that's just it. Let's see. Chris Leary says El Neni success for me is Lakanga. Number 8 should be Neves. A number 6 could be a Neves. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I hear what you're saying. Neves is somebody that I just am not feeling. I don't know. He's just not for me. So yeah, there you go. But I know a lot of people do rate him. That's the Euros. A lot of people look good at the Euros and then don't do anything else for the rest of their lives. So Renato Sanchez is still at the Euros, because he hasn't played good since then. And since then means the couple of games where he dribbled past a couple people. The Eddie says we need numbers, guys, which is wish we could be talking done deals, because rumors are. Yeah, I know, I get that. And that's yeah, it's for me, it's like 3 midfielders plus a striker. And let's be real, we'll probably need more than one striker as well, because we're going to lose Lacazette and Aubameyang, and right now Martinelli's not a striker. So we still are lacking numbers. So I would like to see the striker come in, and then 3 midfielders, 1 now and 2 in the summer, but that may not happen. So there you go. But that's our little transfer day update. Transfer update. True Sets Free also sent another super chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You guys, this was so much fun. I love it. So many familiar faces. I've seen you a lot lately. Diallo, I've seen you a lot lately. Yo-Yo, the usuals, Nashville, always here. The True Sets Free. Yeah, a lot of you guys are coming like every single time, and I really do appreciate it. And everybody who's new, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure that you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. That really helps the channel out. And we've been doing good lately, so I really appreciate it. I will try to continue to create as much content as possible throughout this break, even though I would love to forget about Arsenal and how terrible they've been in January. I'm going to keep you guys updated on what's going on in transfers, all the gossip, all of those types of things. And hopefully then, the next player ratings that we're doing is talking about a win versus Wolves, because you guys, I can't handle it. So, yep, I will see you guys on the next one. See you guys on the next one. You guys, what's really interesting is like now on StreamYard, they have these like little songs now. So I can like do this. Let's see. Can you guys hear it? Bye, guys.